is, it focuses more on suicide prevention. So actually, I'm going to read some data that I thought was really important to share with you guys on the facts around suicide rates in the Black community. So hold on one second. Okay. So this was an article that I actually found. I manage the NAMI Renee Instagram, and so the article is called "One Size Doesn't Fit All: The Alarming Rates of Suicide in the Black Community." And it also says, titled, "Miscalculating Data in Black Suicides Uncovers Hard Truth." So it's based in Indianapolis. I'll read a little bit of it. Indianapolis, cultural disparities in mental health programs, community stigma surrounding depression, and miscalculated data in deaths resulting in suicide have led to the continual rise in suicide rates among Blacks and non-white Hispanics. For every one white child aged 5 to 12 that has died by suicide, 2 African American children have died by suicide, according to JAMA Pediatrics. Based on the 27 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, Black students reported the highest rate of attempted suicide at 9.8%, with their white counterparts reporting at 6.1%. And I think this is based in Indianapolis. But furthermore, a recent study shows a sharp increase in Black adolescents dying by suicide from the years 2001 to 2017. The rates of female African American suicide rose by 182%, and African American males rose by 60% in those last 16 years. The most alarming fact of all, officials with the Center for Suicide Prevention and Research don't necessarily know if the same risk and protective factors that apply to white youth apply to Black youth. It's a discrepancy that advocate and educator Dr. Kimya N. Dennis, professor of criminology at Notre Dame of Maryland University, has been speaking about for quite some time. And so we can stop there, but basically in this article, they go on to talk about there's not enough research and data being done on why Black folks, especially teens, are dying by suicide at more alarming rates. And a lot of times what they're saying is the research and what they're doing is only focused on like how white people heal and how they experience treatment programs. There's treatment programs that are outpatient programs at hospitals like UCLA, Johns Hopkins, a lot of the major psychiatric centers in Boston, but they're not doing as much research into our challenges, and so that's a problem. And so just wanted to share that article to preface this question. So what protective factors, this is for everyone up here, what protective factors do you think are important to consider when addressing suicide prevention in the Black community? And so a protective factor, for example, can be defined as a characteristic at the biological, psychological, family, or community level, including peers and culture, that is associated with a lower likelihood of problem outcomes, or that reduces the negative impact of a risk factor on problem outcomes. So basically thinking about how can we kind of reduce the risk.
I just kind of want to touch on some of those statistics because I think because I also did my own research while I was in school, and it's kind of astonishing because the African American community, Black community, we have the most failed suicide attempts, which means sometimes the data is skewed because like we'll attempt to kill ourselves, but we don't actually kill ourselves. So it's interesting because that's not always looked at as like, okay, like we are actually killing ourselves. It's just interesting because like it's not like a follow through with us killing ourselves. Going back to the question as far as like protective factors or and risk factors, as I said, I think overall too, making sure that we normalize that we do have suicide ideations and like we do feel like killing ourselves and we do feel like harming ourselves because I think a lot of times, and sorry if I offend anybody in this room, but sometimes we think it's a white thing that, you know, white people kill themselves or white people do these things or white people overdose or like they commit suicide, and that's not something we do. We kind of pray on it and like move on, burn some sage, incense, and whatever we do. But I think more so like acknowledging that, you know, we do have suicide ideations and there are people that attempt to take their lives and people that do struggle with, you know, deciphering whether they want to stay here tomorrow or not. I think the biggest thing, another factor is understanding, like, checking in with somebody. Like, if you guys know somebody that is struggling with mental illness, or they feel like, feeling depressed, or feeling like taking their lives, making sure that you check in with them. And that's more so a community approach is when we're talking about suicide prevention, is making sure that we're checking in with each other and making sure that we're able to provide that kind of resource and that kind of support with people. Because a lot of times, like, it is kind of shame. There can be some shame in dialing a suicide prevention hotline. There can be some shame in, going to church and talking about these things when, even me, like, I think about, like, sometimes when I thought about, like, suicide ideations, like, as a kid, and you think about, like, I think the only thing that really kind of stopped me and even following through was my religion, right? So if you kill yourself, you're going to hell, right? That was my kind of thought. So, like, if you thinking about those things, you know what I'm saying? Talking about suicide prevention in the church, my scope is always, like, even in my profession, like me being a social worker, me being a therapist, being able to provide people with insight on what they're going through and normalize what they're going through. So if anybody is feeling, suicidal, there's particularly usually is a reason, right? There's something that's happened, a traumatic event, there's something that they don't like about themselves. It could be stuff that's been going on for years and years and years. But if you guys can even think about somebody today that's maybe been struggling with depression, or maybe struggling with, maybe like they're suffering in silence. Like, I think it's always good to check in with your friends, check in with people that you know, check in with your family members. And, I know we have resources here today to provide them with those resources, because it's very important for us to acknowledge that we do have those things and that it can be prevented, and it can be a point where, like, we're talking about the data. The data can be used as a tool for us to be aware of what's going on in our community.
I think that there are a lot of protective factors within communities of colors and within our culture that sometimes we've even maybe gotten a little bit disconnected from. For example, the fact that a lot of our cultural backgrounds, we value community, we value family, and we value togetherness. Like the fact that you would choose to be together with people, that's a beautiful thing, and that can be so protective in times of struggle, to have a natural inclination to turn to others and have a community that you can share with. Also, our rich traditions as far as visual arts, music, dance, all of these wonderful things that, other cultures are catching on to more so, but they're embedded in us, and there's so much healing to be found there. Having those interests, having those outlets, having those ways of connecting honestly with ourselves are so important as far as protective factors. I think our roots in spirituality and faith, as you mentioned, can be such rich protective factors if used in the right ways. A lot of us have experienced pain through maybe religious organizations, but there is so much healing to be found in our faith traditions and spiritualities as well. And those are some of the things that often, yes, the research does kind of miss or doesn't hit on. A lot of things you'll see it focusing on maybe some more factors that are tied more to socioeconomic status than a lot of other things. But there's so much within our culture that has helped us to cope with intergenerational traumas, to heal, to get through. But then I think the flip side of that is because our cultures have gone through so much, we can be content almost with living with things like anxiety and stress and depression, just feeling like, oh, this is good enough. This is just normal, this is what everyone else goes through. But there's healing to be found in those. It just is reconnecting and accessing it. And it's just the work that we have to do together.
So I think protective factors is a really clinical word. And so I like to break it down and just say, why is it that the whole world can seem to be against us, passively and actively, and we continue to rise above, and we continue to do what we're doing. And I start to name those things, and we're resilient beings, we transcend, we are the OG creators, we are the OG healers, we nothing that has been thrown our way has been able to destroy us in the way that it was intended. And so I stand on that, and I believe that we can continue to evolve. And I think our tough love, the way that we love hard, but we also have the capacity to hold each other accountable, I think that's something I would love to see us tap into. When you hear something that doesn't sound right, to call it out with love, and to keep doing the work on ourselves so that we can continue to elevate and transcend together.
So a quick personal story, like you said at the beginning. My older brother committed suicide 5 years ago. What made it significant for me was that I was the one on the phone with him for 2 hours. And the whole family said, DJ solved this problem, and I failed. I failed as a human, I failed as a little brother. And I'm gonna say we, the family, did, because nobody paid attention to the signs of my brother going through what he was going through, right? I had moved away when I left high school. I never really moved back home. So I never really saw him. So for me, it was one of those things like you never really check in with your brother on that kind of level. You know what I mean? Like I would see him, we would speak all the time, but it wasn't like, how are you? Like I really want to know what's going on. It was a surface thing, and then we go hang out and do our thing. So for me, my journey with suicide is a very personal one, and through his suicide sent me down my spiral. I jumped right into alcohol. Like I said earlier, I come from the athlete world, and so I'm gonna bring this all around into how we help preventative measures. Small things every day, small healthy choices every single day are what help you get away from suicidal idealization. Eating healthy, what you put in your body helps with your mental and emotional health as well, just like therapy does. Little small physical things. I'm not saying you gotta go run 10 hours a day, but no, small things every day is what it's preventative. Same thing with your physical health, right? Eating healthy, exercise. You don't have to go to the doctor as much, right? A lot of things, how we get sick is what we put in our body. You eliminate a bunch of diseases and a bunch of sicknesses if you just eat a little healthier. I'm not saying you can't enjoy a burger or a little bacon on the side, but smaller healthy choices every day help with that. And so for me, I come from a healthy lifestyle. I'm always active, but that wasn't working for me. I would work out 2 hours on end and go back and just kill a bottle of Hennessy and pass out. And so my breaking point was my brother's suicide, was sent me down a spiral to alcoholism. They wanted to send me to Ed, they wanted to send me away from it. And at the same time, I was in couples therapy with an ex-girlfriend when I realized that you can't be in this relationship and be for this woman until you heal yourself. So it was a bunch of different factors for me personally, right? So I discovered through my journey, which was the small things, getting away from the bad things. And it was one day at a time, it was 1 hour at a time, it was 1 second at a time. We are human, and to bring what they brought into it, we are human, man. And we, in life, beats us down. We are black, we're African American, believes it too. And as Caribbean and Central American people, we definitely have a very strict, way of thinking about things, especially mental health. It's not something that we do. But we are the most powerful people on the planet. Everything has been stacked against us. And yet, what have we done? Nothing moves without us. We move everything within the culture. Music, food, fashion, mental health. It wasn't until these basketball players and these football players and all of a sudden started talking about their own journeys, in recent years, then all of a sudden I see a commercial with Ashton Kutcher or whatever, talking about therapy. We move everything. Always keep that in mind. Nothing moves until we move. So the small things every day, understanding who you are, who your people are, where your people come from. We are the originators. We are the most powerful people on the planet, and nothing can happen until we say it happens. You know what I mean? So those are some small things.
Empathy to that person if they're experiencing a crisis. I know my mom has really come a long way. You've seen her sitting in the front with dealing with my rage and anger with my illness has been really tough, very tough on my family. A lot of my family members and even siblings still don't fully understand, when I get in these tough moments where I could be screaming, I could be making self-threats, But my mom has come a long way where now she knows, like I created my own safety plan. It's called a life-giving safety plan, that's what I called it, where it has positive pictures of me of like, how to help Marguerite. Okay, here are the talk lines, NYC well. And I have pretty pictures of myself to remind myself of who I am. It says Marguerite likes to go to Simply Wholesome and listen to the music and hear Lauryn Hill singing, and that's a protective factor for me to prevent suicide. Going to the coffee shop is something that's on my safety plan. Other things my mom has helped me with is just like praying with me. Like instead of like reacting to me if I'm angry, she's like, no baby, let's pray. And it's hard for her. My grandmother prays with me. My mom says, let's take deep breaths. And again, this is the parent. And so I can't even imagine what she goes through. But she's been really teachable, as Lauren said, and has learned a lot about how to be that compassionate parent when you know that this isn't your child. You know that this isn't the child you raised that was always kind of dealing with the rage and anger, but it is a medical condition that is very treatable, and you can get help. And so I think having a safety plan that's written and typed out, but it can be creative. You can put colors on it, you can put glitter. Mine has colors and positive images of me. And I think just if you're approaching somebody, approach them with kindness and say, hey, how can I support you? I know this must be a difficult time for you. Don't make comments like, well, you just shouldn't feel that way. You know, try to be like, I wonder what you're going through. How can I support you? Is there anything I can do? I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Literally telling somebody, saying, I'm so sorry you're going through that just can solve a lot of problems. You don't need to solve anybody's problem, but acknowledging their pain and saying, I'm sorry you're going through that. So that's my piece. Oh, you want to add 1 second? Go ahead.
To add on to the parents, I'm a father, I have a son, and so there's parents in the room. I always say, parents, put yourself first. Make sure you are good first. That makes you a better parent. It wasn't until I got into therapy that I realized how detrimental and toxic my parenting can be at times. There are times where I don't feel like being dad right now, dude, like leave me alone. And I know a bunch of parents have that feeling, and it's completely okay to feel like not being mom, not being dad, not being the parental, the guardian, or whatever you be in a child's life. But I always tell parents now, take care of you first. There's no way you can take care of others if you are not centered, if you are not well. And you will see how different your parenting changes and how easier and how light it is and how free-flowing it is. So like when my son has an issue, he'd be going off about something and I'll have to take a step back because as dad, I'd be like, who are you talking to? But I've learned to take a step back and ask him on all my asses what's really going on. And as soon as I say what's really going on, he takes a moment. So it made parenting a son that's going through something way easier for me. So parents, I don't know if you've done this, but in helping that, I'll let you talk about it. Put yourself first. Make sure you're good and you're right, and then your parenting will be so much easier and so much smoother for you. Mom, I'm gonna let you.
I just want to give a shout out to that because there are times when Marguerite has something going on and I have to pull myself away and I have to say to her, please call Lauren, please call Kelia, please call a talk line, please call Michelle, someone to help you because I just can't be available at the time because we need breaks as parents and we too get overwhelmed and it's, yes, you don't want to abandon your child ever and we don't, but we do need those breaks. It doesn't mean we're bad parents. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. So we're gonna get into the Q&A. Can we give it up for the panelists?